1.5.
Welcome to Mumbai. Welcome to the C# Corner Conference in Mumbai. I'll be your host for this meetup here, and I'm going to continue building on kind of a story that we've had from the other locations as well, where my esteemed colleagues actually sitting behind the camera. We had Alan talking about a lot about AI and data platforms and various things, including many other things. The story continued to build where Joe, also sitting behind the camera, kept talking about .NET and the direction of .NET and the relevant new technologies going on. I'm a cloud person, so I'm going to pivot towards the cloud.
You said your head was in the cloud.
Talk a lot about Azure is what I'm going to do. And you are here, present in the room, or present online, hopefully. I can't see you, I'm sorry, but I hope you're there. You should be using this hashtag C#CornerCon22 to talk about this conference and mention this conference and get buzz around it, of course. And if you like anything in this conference, let us know in social media so that we can build on that and improve even more for the next event. My name is Magnus. I'm Magnus Martinsson, and I have been in the cloud. My head has been in the cloud since the beginning of Azure, since the very, very beginning. And I have, by this time, accumulated 11 Azure MVP titles. So cloud is kind of my domain, and that's what I do. And I want to share here today some of the experiences from that to let you know where I see that the industry both is going and where it is lagging behind or where there is demand in this industry. But I want to take you back to PDC. I want to take you back to PDC 2008, where this gentleman, Ray Ossie, at the time was the Microsoft CTO, the technical officer in charge of everything Microsoft technology. He's on stage at the PDC conference in Los Angeles. He's like just walking like this, just seemingly quite randomly, and he just announced, he says, announcing a new service in the cloud, Windows Azure. That was what it was called in the beginning, Windows Azure. It's not just Windows anymore, but it certainly was back then. And so that's what it was called initially, Windows Azure. In 2008, it was announced. And I was there. I was blown away. This was sort of a secret conference content event. The last time they did like a big reveal thing on stage where they said that they opened up for a conference and they had sessions and everything put in place, but it was many of them were placeholders. So during the keynote, while they were announcing this new platform, they ran around the conference hall outside where all the attendees were in the keynote, and they put up banners for Windows Azure, and they also switched out much of the content of the conference for that event. So to reveal the actual sessions that were supposed to be there in place. And it was kind of exciting. I was excited. I was some years younger than I am now, and I'm very excited about the cloud thing because I was always a server person in the sense that I developed the services on the server side. My UX essentially is, and mostly has been through my career, is an API. That's where I work. So I ran home to Sweden and I delivered this, as in Swedish right here, developed solutions on Windows Azure with ASP.NET. That was the first presentation probably presented on cloud in Sweden or in the Nordic countries at all. And I later proceeded then to become the first Azure MVP in the Nordic countries. And Joe?
Yes, sir.
See that one? Ineta. That was alive back then. So I just wanted to see, and I have some experienced people behind the scenes. That's code for old people behind the scenes here. So I'll see if they can answer the questions. How many Azure data center regions were there initially in the cloud? At first announcement, how many were there?
Is there a prize?
They were not in India.
They were not in India. They were also not in Sweden. It took a long time for Azure to reach Sweden. India got it first, way first.
5 or 7?
5 and 7 is wrong.
It was 4, wasn't it?
4 is wrong. 2 is wrong.
No, that's US, right?
The answer is 8.
Oh,
8. The US had 4, And then there were 2 in Europe and 2 in Asia, not in India, but in Asia. So that was the full total coverage. And how many data center regions are there now? How many Azure data center regions are there today?
No Googling.
Probably.
The answer is nobody knows. Nobody can really say how many, and Microsoft has stopped counting. Officially, they had a data center region map before. They still have it, but they don't really give a count of regions. They don't talk about it that way. They say that it's regional. They have some in the Asia region. They have some in the Africa region, and so forth. So they kind of stopped doing that, and it doesn't also really make sense because there are new regions under construction. Some of them are in private preview, some of them are public preview, some of them are live, others are just being constructed. So it's hard to tell. It's gone to a place where we don't really know. Let's do one more of these. How many services were there in the Azure data centers initially? How many services were there in the Azure Data Center Windows platform? I'm not going to ask you guys because I'm going to give it away to say that there were about a handful, right? There were like, you had storage, which had tables, queues, and blobs. There was a hosted service, and there was a database. And I think that's what the hosted service could have a web front end and a worker role backend. So basically, like a handful. That was it. That was the platform initially. And today, honestly, there are hundreds. And nobody really knows how many services there are. Plus, they also need to be available in the data center region that you are working in. But there are so many, it's crazy. So, all right, kind of getting warmed up here. Now I'm going to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a very successful manufacturing company called Acme LLC here in Mumbai. In fact, you may know this company, you may know exactly who these are. They were, of course, tremendously successful because they were manufacturing chai cups. So, they didn't have to have these paper cups that we have here. But you can imagine the success of a company like this. They were huge. Of course, they had a massive IT department, and with all of this success, they decided that it was time to begin the journey to the cloud because that was, what everyone seemed to be doing. So we're going to do that ourselves as well. Yes, for sure, the cloud. Let's go. However, right on the road to the cloud, they found that there were, the road was full of treacherous holes and pitfalls, kind of like any Mumbai street, really. Just joking, but really, it was hard to get to the cloud. It was difficult. They started having issues with financial control. It seemed to be that the cost was growing all the time, and never coming down. And do we really get value for that money? It was hard to tell. Additionally, for example, there's a whole area about compliance. If you're working with sensitive data, sensitive information, you need to have a certain level of compliancy in the cloud where you can prove that, yes, the things that we are running are up to par with all the ISO standards and all the things that you need to be aligned with. And this is a huge challenge. It's very difficult to do, or to do well, I should say. Then, of course, don't even get me started on security, right? That's another big hole in the road because it's difficult to do security properly. There are many things you need to do. You need to set up and collect lots of data, and then you need to analyze all of that data, and you need to use the services in the platform that can help you with that. I mean, what is Microsoft Defender anyway? Can I use Synapse here? Is that a match? I don't know. How do I process all of this data? So there are certainly challenges. They felt that there are holes in the road everywhere. They were going to the cloud, and they were getting deeper and darker and scarier, these holes. And it was challenging. Of course, they also had some success, right? But clearly, this stuff is not working. I'm going to leave the story here, but I wanted to sort of set the stage and let you know that I work with a lot of companies, from enterprises to small basement companies. I kid you not, I have literally walked down a ramp into a basement to talk to a company once. And I also work with national infrastructure critical enterprises. So common across all of these, in my experience, is that a lot of companies are struggling in these areas, and potentially a few more, but these are the really big ones that I see. And so there has to be sort of a better way. Unfortunately, in this talk, which is just a high-level overview, we're not going to have time to delve into exactly how to approach all of these technologies. That's like separate talks or workshops as well. But I'm going to give you the lay of the land, and I'm going to give you a map to how to proceed if you should want to learn more about this. It's good to find a survey that kind of emphasizes or aligns exactly with your experience and what you have been talking about. And so I went online and I found this one from a company called Flexera. Don't know who they are, but they have a state of the cloud report that they put out, and you can read the respondents' stats on where are the top challenges in the cloud right now. And I don't know about you, but I would like to just scratch out software licenses there, because when somebody starts talking about software licenses, I feel like I need to take a shower or something. I feel violated. Software licenses is not my favorite cup of chai. Let's not talk about that. But what remains if we remove software licenses? The top challenges: security, spend, which is cost, governance, compliance. Exactly what I just said. And I've been saying this for years, long before I found this thing here. This is the experience I see out there. And yes, it seems to be aligned with what people are saying. These are our challenges. And look, there's one more. The lack of resources and expertise. This is the problem, right? If we only had enough engineers with the right skills, do you ever? No, you never. But how do you challenge that or tackle this huge problem of filling the gaps so that you can start chipping away on these real problems that you have? So I'm going to show you a couple of slides, actually some screenshots, a couple of more charts, but some screenshots from what this looks like in reality from some of my customers. I've blanked out the names to protect the innocent or the guilty, I don't know. But I'm not going to disclose which companies these are. Self-reported cloud cost waste. 32% in this, so a third. So if somebody is spending 10 million rupee annually on cloud cost, 3.2 million of that is just waste. Because you cannot optimize, you cannot deploy continuously, you can't do infrastructure as code, whatever it is that you need to do. You'll wind up in scenarios like this, and this is real. In this case, it's a little over 6 million rupee of waste, and that's just from, there's more waste, but this is just from the advisories in the Azure platform, showing if you do this high level, high impact cost optimizations, if you do these things, you can save 6 million rupee. But how do I do that, right? This stuff is already there. Anyone can find this. Anyone can click and see these advisories. But I don't know what to do. That's the challenge. If you can go into a company, if you can learn about this and go into a company and say, hey, I can cut your Azure spend by a third. You're hired. You're hired immediately. And compliance, again, we talked about compliance before. And what is compliance? Well, it turns out in Azure you can measure compliance. You can say, okay, how many of my deployments, much of my infrastructure, my databases, servers, all the things I'm using, how many of them are compliant, following standards that they're set up in a way that is optimal? In this case, this company, they were at 12%. 12% compliance, which meant that they had 874 Azure resources that are non-compliant. And it's challenging to even begin to understand what to do about that. It boggles the mind, and it's so hard. And even if you have many teams, each team needs to solve the same problems over again. And the next time they deploy, some of the problems come back. And it is hard. And one big reason why it is challenging, even if you do, come on in, please, come on in. Even if you are somewhat successful in battling this number to push it up towards 100 and you're getting there, a big other challenge with the cloud is that compliancy in cloud always changes, constantly changes. So this is a site called AZ Advertiser, It's operated by a Microsoft employee, but it's not in any way is it an official Microsoft tool. It's not. It's just like a hobby project. But I kind of like it. It's cute because what he's doing is that he is pulling from the Azure platform which policies are there, which aliases, initiatives, and roles, and other things are in the Azure platform that Microsoft has put in place. And then he just reads that data over time, and he just shows the delta. He shows the change rate. How fast is the cloud changing in terms of, in this case, compliance. Compliance is connected to something called policy. It's very small on the screen, but it says policy here. And there's time, and here are some changes. And when I took this screenshot, the changes were 341 changes to Azure policy, to Azure compliance, in something less than 2 weeks. So it seems unclimbable, this mountain, towards the cloud. You can't climb it because it always gets higher, I don't know, and it changes. And that's super challenging to wrap your head around how to approach a beast like that. It's like it's metamorphosis, right? So security again. A secure score is also something you can get inside of Microsoft Defender to see how secure are we. Are all of our endpoints protected? Have we got the latest security patches deployed, and so on and so forth? Maybe we have hundreds, or maybe we have thousands of resources. So Microsoft can count for you and collect and show you here is your secure score right now. This is 51% of a secure score. It's not. It's actually. It sounds worse than it is probably, because those of us who work with security in Azure, we know that just fixing one thing can be 25%. So it's not necessarily that bad. But I love this picture. I called, how's your security? That's about half secure. I call this picture about half secure. That's roughly where we are right now. And you'll find things like this: 611 active alerts, security alerts. And some of them are high alerts, like brute force attacks going on and things. And how do I respond to this? What do I do? I don't know. So this is a challenge. And when faced with these challenges, to sort of wrap up this segment, you'll find something like this. This is also from the advisory section in Azure. What's interesting here is that they're doing well in certain areas here according to the advisories, but there's also like cost savings and some security places where this company could seriously improve and do better. And the platform is telling them, here's room for improvement. But what you see here is this secure score history. You'll notice that there's really no change over time. So months go by, months and months and months go by, and there is no change. Money is, I wouldn't say pouring out, but it's being wasted. And security is not where it needs to be. Maybe the customers are happy because the service is running, and that means that your manager is probably happy because, hey, if the customers are happy, the manager is happy, right? Brilliant. But as an engineer, you may look at that and go, oh, wait, security is probably a priority. So how do we make it a priority? And how do we move that needle? And how do we motivate a manager who's got happy customers that the next iteration you're going to have to spend a lot of focus on security to increase security? How are you going to get someone to approve this? This is hard. Constantly, we are bombarded by recommendations, which is what we asked for. Because seriously, I've been, again, in the cloud since it was called Windows, right? Back then, we were much more in the dark than we are now. Now the platform is giving us everything, or lots. I don't know about everything, but it's giving us a lot of information, a lot. And there's lots that we can do and improve and fix and change. If we knew how, if we had the people who knew how, then we could fix this. And there's always more things. So an expert on fixing these things most certainly will have a job. So that's why I think that finding a couple of things, I don't know if this is small on the camera here, but working to improve your mastery in the cloud in the areas of cloud migration, most certainly, optimization and innovation, how to make the cost less while keeping the customers still happy. and innovating in the architecture area to fix things. Management and operations, that's a huge thing, because when you're running the services in the cloud, you have to have people who knows how to operate that 24/7, because it's not going to be you if you're a developer. Maybe there's a whole operations team you need to build. Compliance, security, we've already been there. So, how do you then do that? That's the natural progression to the question, or the situation is, there's a need, there are problems, there are areas where you could improve. Well, how? What do I do? Well, I'm going to tell you, of course, a little bit about community as well, because this is a community meetup, after all. But you would need to understand the question, or the answer to the question, where do I start to learn Azure? And learn is deliberately with a capital L there, because obviously for Microsoft you would probably start on learn.microsoft.com on the website. So I'm going to do this, see if I can do that. Yes, all right, that works, brilliant. So Learn, Microsoft Learn, which recently got a makeover and now looks like this, and they are doing a commercial for an Ignite conference that is actually going on right now. But what Microsoft has done is that they've taken documentation and everything, and certifications and code samples and a bunch of things here, and put them in the same resource, because I believe before it was spread out all over the place, and it can be kind of challenging. You were at an event doing something, and then you wanted to understand or maybe read the documentation. Well, that meant you had to go to a different place, a different site with a different look and feel and everything. But now everything is here. So let's say you want to become a cloud architect. Let's say you want to become really proficient at using the cloud, and therefore being a valuable employee to your company, maybe getting a raise, maybe getting a good job. All right, well, how do you approach a beast like that? Because you're now standing in front of all the documentation and all the learnings about cloud in the world, and there is so much. How do I even break that down? And honestly, I did a similar thing myself very recently. I kind of tend to start in certifications. To find the Microsoft certifications you can get, what do I want to become? A security engineer, data scientist, who want to be an AI engineer? What is it that I want to do as a career? What interests me? What triggers my curiosity? Where do I want to work? So let's go for solution architects, because that's me. I'm a solution architect. Your journey can be different, but mine is there. So, okay, I want to do. Do I want to do Microsoft 365 or Azure or whatever? Let's say Azure, and let's look for certifications. Okay. So here are some certifications you could get. Azure Cosmos DB Developer Specialty. Okay, that sounds interesting actually. SAP Certified SAP Workload Specialty. Not my cup of chai. So okay, I want to be a Microsoft Azure Solutions expert. Yes, architecture, that's sexy. Let's do it. So I go into it, and then I'll see which certification and exam are part of this path, part of this journey to become a certified expert. Because it's not really about the end goal, though if you don't have any titles or certifications, that's maybe good to put on your resume, but I think the journey is the goal. To learn on the road to becoming an expert, that's the real goal. So if you go into any exam, here's how I do it, and I literally do it this way. You scroll down and you see learning items in this collection. Okay, so there are plenty of them, and I'm not going to dive into them in detail, but you see there's even more, but wait, there's more. So there's all these learning paths. They're literally called a learning path to learn something. Design infrastructure solutions. I don't know how to design infrastructure solutions, but I've heard that if you know how to do that, you can optimize the cost of infrastructure in Azure. So that would be good. You know, how do I design a data storage solution? How can I get into that? Well, you follow these learning paths at least in the beginning, because these paths are built in such a way that they give you a scope. Out of everything, you now have a box, a little tiny, slice or piece of that huge box. Please come on in. And now you have an idea of where you are looking. Now it's getting useful to you because from everything you're down to, okay, follow this path. And then see if that helps you. So that's how I break it down, and that's what I would recommend. And now I'm completely on the wrong slide. So that's my kind of pitch, if you will. And again, maybe you already know this, but what I wanted to give was from reality with evidence, where are the challenges? Well, in these areas. And then as a young professional or whoever you are, just maybe want to have a career change, just maybe want to get onto the cloud train. Maybe you haven't been going there because you've been dealing with the on-premises infrastructure, the old stuff. Maybe you want to join the future of the cloud with your company, maybe. So you might need to learn some, right? So enough about that. Before I go, we're going to talk about community. I am very, very much a community passionate person. I love community. I have been involved in community activities for longer than I care to admit. It is a long time, and I love doing it. And just recently, I was pleased that a person said to me, I'm actually a little moved right now, he said to me that, you know, thank you for being with our company. Thank you for teaching me things. I was like, we didn't really interact very much. I don't know, what was it that I taught you? Please share with me. What I learned from you is how I can be passionate about IT. And I thought that that was such a wonderful comment to get. It warmed my heart a lot. And it means that I project who I am. I am technology, I am this, I can't do it any other way. And that passion, finding that purpose and that passion is what you find mostly with your peers, with your other people in the community. It really is, because these people in your community, they speak the same language. Maybe, I'm not talking about programming languages here. I'm talking about how they speak technology, right? You know how in the world, if we're going to make a Harry Potter reference, that there are normal people and there are muggles, right? Or sorry, muggles are normal people and there are magical people. That's what I was going to say. So magical people are like technologists, right? They say that any advanced enough technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's the language we speak. The muggles, the non-technical folks, they don't understand that. So you can't go home and talk to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your mother about technology details. They don't speak this language. You find that with your peers who are as nerdy as you and as beautiful and gorgeous as you in the community. That's where you get it. And honestly, it's the only way, mostly, only way that I learn today is from my peers. I used to learn resources and the stuff that I showed you before. I literally did it just last month. But meeting with people of like minds who are as passionate about geekery as I am is how you learn. Some of my very good friends are sitting behind the camera that I have known for many years in this industry, and it's great. So, speaking about communities, obviously, let's mention the C# Corner community. I'm sure you know it, and it is a good place to start and be involved with peers, with people of your same background, people who are passionate about the same things. That's exactly where you need to be. And we are here today in Mumbai, and we're going to be in Jaipur actually tomorrow, so that's interesting. We're bouncing around. But then the big conference happens in Delhi, and that's going to be very large with many different tracks and different sessions going on. So if you are in Delhi, or if you know someone who is in Delhi, or if you can get to Delhi, you should get to this conference for sure. But from this conference, and also from this event here today, what can you get? What can you do? Maybe you're a young professional starting out. You want to get going somewhere, unclear where, you're trying. But how do I do it? Well, you stay here and talk to the experts and network and communicate and start building some bridges with finding some peers in creating a little bit of community. Consider joining existing communities wherever you find them, other communities, C# Corner as well. But here as well, you will have some sessions from some speakers sitting here behind today where you can learn a bit about certain technologies, and I urge you to immerse yourself and then ask them questions after. Don't be afraid. They're friendly people. They don't look like they bite very hard. Maybe just nibble, but they're friendly people. And ask them questions, challenge them after, and say, where can we learn more? How can I get more? Because that's what it's all about. Learning all the time, continuously through life, and together as a community of people. That's it, folks. I'm done. Thank you for having me.
Very nice.
Yay. And now we're going to have the next speaker coming up. You're going to start to set up. I'm going to get out of your way. This thing worked really well. I'm going to move my key. Oh, you hold the cords there. Thank you. Thank you. Huh? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Take my things and you go. Nice.
The desktop is pretty messy.
Only brilliant people have a messy desktop. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm good to start reading.
Yeah.
Second. So basically, bring you today a very exciting area like Azure landing zone. So normally we need to have this actually before we start any project. The very first thing that I do for my organization or for my customers is to build a landing zone or rather a cloud foundation. And from there, we do start. So we'll be talking about Azure landing zone for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So brief introduction on me, I have a 17 plus years of experience in the industry. I lead the cloud practice, Azure practice, mostly for a leading healthcare organization. I'm a C# AVP speaker, I can speak at conferences and in the city. So, and this is the agenda for today. So I'll start with why we need a cloud foundation. Magnus did an excellent job in explaining a lot of the pitfalls or the portals we unlock when we get into the cloud journey. So we'll discuss a bit about the cloud foundation. So then I'll talk about the cloud adoption framework, because without talking about the cloud adoption framework, so we can't get into the landing zone because it's a part of that. We get to know that. And then I will tell you how to get started, few of the technical stuff of from where I can pull in the templates, what is available, and what are the various options available to pull in those templates and build my landing zone. Okay. So before we get into this, one question for the audience. I think most of us work on Azure. So how do you start your Azure journey? Suppose you have a SW sign, you have a win. So you normally what you do next? Is it you go to the portal and spin the resources, or you do something more interesting?
We start with some interesting intentions.
Okay. So how do we approach a software development? So what we do? So let's keep cloud apart. When I'm building a software, so what is the first thing I do? I build some common assets, right? Some login component. So how to connect to the database? Let me have some reusable component that I can reuse across. So why do we do that? The very first thing, the advantage I get is it accelerates my journey. So I can build my software first, because developers can start using those common assets and they can actually build the things out very fast. And the second thing is like I bring in a strict governance of how this application is getting built. So in the same lines, we have the cloud foundation. So of late, during the migration journey, so I have been helping my customers from last maybe say 8 years, 8 to 9 years in this cloud journey. So what I've seen is earlier like services were less. So like in 2014, like we just had few couple of services and not much of choices. So no much brainstorming and we used to get it easily. But of late, we could see that it took a lot of time for enterprises. I'm not talking about projects, and enterprises consist of a lot of projects. So as an enterprise architect, you see like stitching the cloud story for all the projects or the departments in the enterprise takes a lot of time. That's what we see. And that was again one of the need for like why we need a cloud foundation. Let's have the foundation set up. Let's have the logging component there. Maybe I can say it's configured. Let's have some common assets which can help me spin out the resources. Let me have some governance components, like I can have some cool dashboards from where I can see the governance and the monitoring capabilities. So all these were like inspiration for this cloud foundation. And what next? I have my like uniformity across the enterprise. I'm like with the cloud foundation, I'm able to deploy faster in cloud. But one more important thing is ease of operations. Once you have built your application, your cloud application, your enterprise is on cloud. You are now like a cloud first organization saying that we are cloud ready. So, and you have delivered all the projects. What next? The ease of operations. How you can smoothly run the next journey. Like that is again like cloud foundation will come into play. And the most important thing is the cloud continuum. I would like to stress on this. So when you like suppose you are in this cloud journey from a long time, like your customer has started adopting cloud from say like 2014 or 2015, and now they are cloud mature. They say we are already on cloud. We have already migrated. We know what cloud is. We don't need your service. Now, how will this IT services company can bring in their story? It's to the cloud continuum. Where what we try to do is we go beyond the migration, beyond the cloud developments and all. We say we are going to build a continuum where like we can bring in or churn out more values using the existing services for the customers. Maybe one example I can take is a patient remote monitoring system where I can have a edge IoT edge application, something running on the edge computing happening and collecting the patient. It's a healthcare example, like patient vitals, and that will ingest to the IoT hub, and I'll have an analytics dashboard from where I can analyze. So these all are like the continuum stories, or even the metaverse. Metaverse is a kind of a continuum that can be built on cloud, but there are other layers involved like blockchain, AI, VR. So many things are there. So that is how the cloud foundation came in, and this is how the cloud adoption framework looks like. So basically, when you talk about cloud adoption framework, it consists of three things. So one is the tools that is going to make your life easy. Like I'll talk about the stages. So when we move through the stages, so like you need to know strategy, what I am going to strategize, how I am going to strategize. So you'll be able to do using like either the tools or the documentation that is available or the best practices. So your cloud adoption framework is a combination of tools, documentations, and best practices that actually you can use and get onto the cloud adoption framework or help your enterprise adopt cloud. Okay, and the best part is that it has all those tricks, formulas, and all the necessary things to make sure that you accelerate the cloud journey for your customer in a safe and secure and a compliant way. So to start with, I'll just quickly rush through these 6 pointers I have here. The first is strategies. Definitely, when you are going to get into a cloud, your bosses will ask, like suppose I'm going and putting a proposal in front of a CTO and saying that, boss, I need to go take the enterprise to cloud. Then you'll ask, what is the rationale behind it? So you need to have a strong business vision. Like you need to come up with a business outcome. How will your transformed enterprise will look like, and what is the return of investment you will be getting from the entire activity, from the entire spend, the entire budget that the organization is going to invest. So you need to come up with a strategy, come up with the business outcomes, the return of investment. The next thing is a plan. You need to plan it. Basically, what is an enterprise? It consists of three things, right? First is the people. To make the life of people easy, we have processes, and then we have technologies that actually augment processes and further gives the people an enhanced experience. So you need to plan in all these three areas. When I say people, when you're going on cloud, are they ready to get into the cloud? When I say ready, first of all, do they have the necessary skills to build the application on cloud? Do I need to skill them up? Do I need to teach them what cloud is, what Azure is, what AWS is? So all those things. Then the processes, are those processes mature enough to be managed on cloud? And also the technology, are those technologies, are they compatible with the cloud? If not, you need to plan and make them plan it out so that you can move to the next step, that is the ready step, where you need to be ready to launch the cloud journey. Okay, so here actually the landing zone will come into place. I will talk in a while. Then once you're ready, then you adopt it. Be ready to execute on the cloud. This is the actual execution phase where you adopt your cloud journey. You do the actual migration, build your software on cloud, and next the two things: govern and manage. Once you are on cloud, then you need to have the lights on, right? You need to have the lights on. It should not be going down. Your services will not be going down. Your application will be up and running. For that, you need to monitor, check for the compliance. For example, in the last session we saw Azure Advisor. From there, we can see the compliance score and all. So you can have that compliance. You can have the audits. Then the manage. The last one is it's totally a operational aspect where we can integrate our application with ITSM tools and see whenever there is a defect creeping in, then I should be able to see it, or there can also be some auto healing aspects for your software. So all the management aspects will come down here. Then the next thing is the Azure landing zone. I already told you the Azure landing zone will come in the ready state when you are trying to get ready for your cloud adoption in the third step. Okay. So what is the Azure landing zone? So normally, all of you are aware of Azure policies, right? So I'll tell you the brief what policy is, because Azure landing zone is a combination of Azure policies, couple of foundational Azure services, and some automation, maybe Bicep, Terraform, or Azure DevOps. So when I say policies, so it's something like some rules to define. For example, I can write the Azure policy and I can associate it with a subscription or a management group or a resource group. We create the resources inside a resource group and say that, hey, this policy will make sure that any of the resources that are created without tags, because normally we use tags for managing the cost, right? Or keeping a tab of the Azure resources. So I have written a policy, and this policy will keep a tab on all the resources which doesn't have a tag, and if it doesn't have a tag, then delete it. So that is one of the examples. So like that, you can define a lot of governance. Okay, your cloud governance is in the policies. Hey, this set of folks should not be able to create a set of services. Say Sentinel, or maybe only the security folks should be having access to Sentinels. So all these things you can drive it using policies and IAM roles. Then you have a bunch of Azure services like Azure Monitor, or for application insights, or some of the basic building components. For example, I told you when you're building an application, so you have the logs. You need to build a logger. You need to build something to interact with the database. So similarly, you can see those Azure services as those common set of services that will be already like that you will build beforehand, and also the automation, the third one, where actually you can create maybe Azure DevOps pipelines or write some Terraform or bicep scripts that will create those infrastructure for the applications. So now, once you have the this foundation of the landing zone ready, now what happens is your applications are ready to take off. You can bring in those applications, and what you can do is now, like, you need not worry about those governance or like security issues and all, or auditing the application that will be running on the cloud, or managing the logs and all. Everything will be taken care of by the landing zone, and also like creation of those resources. Like for example, I want to host it on web app. Okay, so what I can do is I can spin up a web app using my foundational component or the landing zone component, that is a bicep script. I can use that; it is already there. So it's an acceleration for me, and I can quickly like go and create a service, like spin up all the necessary services very quickly and go on like cloud very quick. And like these are the design principles. Like first is like use the networking services to build the landing zone. Like for example, we need to have the VNet and subnet so that we define the network boundaries. We need to set identity rules like IAM rules, like who can access it and who can't access it. So those rules, IAM rules, you need to define. And once you have this one and two point met, then like you can start migrating your low risk workloads. But if you have some mission critical workloads, you need to have governance, you need to have, you need to manage the environment and do all these things. So for that, you need to follow those 3, 4, 5 steps. One, like you need to govern the environment. That means you need to bring in Azure Monitor or like application insights. You need to have build some dashboards, Azure dashboards. And the fourth point is the security controls. Like you need to have some security related stuff like integration with the Sentinel and all, showing like showing the security and compliance issues in the dashboard. Then the fifth one is managing the environment, because we need to, end of the day, we need to manage everything in the one stop when we are dealing with the mission critical workloads. And this is the last slide, the presentation. So like so when we say Azure landing zone, there are two options. There are two approaches to build it. One is like you use the Azure landing zone accelerator that is already there. Like there are so many accelerators available for Azure landing zone. You can pick one of them, meeting the requirement, modify it, and start using it. Or else you need to like customize and build a landing zone or a Azure foundation from the scratch. So there are two approaches. And this is an example of one of those landing zones accelerator. So where like it's a custom template that can be deployed, a blueprint basically, that can be deployed, and you can actually create your landing zones, Azure landing zones. I'm good at. So I went a bit fast so that you can have some more sessions, interesting sessions on the way. But any questions?
Moment of silence.
Yeah.
So I'm just a beginner. I'm not aware of lots of Azure. I do some Azure automations, but seeing like I'm just like 1 year experience. How my journey would be in this area.
Okay. So basically, so when the project will come to the organization, like maybe some big customer project you're getting, you'll be taking their enterprise to the cloud. First, you need to see like whether do you really need a landing zone list. That's your architect will step in, enterprise architect will step in and see. If it's a single project, then why to waste so much of time in building this landing zone? So what if there is a need, there are multiple projects, then your role as a developer would be like building this landing zone, like you create those policies, and your journey would be like at the same time you should at least know AZ9 and network concepts, like Azure fundamental concepts, and Azure infrastructure, AZ104 or AZ204. So those things you should be familiar with. And with that, you can start building the Azure policies. You can write, you said you already do automation, so you can build that automation layer. That is how you will chip in. And once the foundation is done, then you are the part of, normally the folks who build the foundation, they are the core cloud. They say like how I structure my organization is when I do a contract with any of my customers for my organization. So like what I do is I build a set of team. I call them as the core guys. And those core guys, they are responsible for actually building this hard, like this landing zone. Then like there will be teams that will co-work with the customer team. Like there is a co-creation model that we bring in, and we start building the things. So you will play either a role in the core or in the actual migration.
So I also look for Azure. So I just want to know in the landing zone, are we considering the cost? Because
Yes.
cost is the main part in graphics. And what about the infrastructure, which maybe company has their own infrastructure. So how which services should we use and what's the cost perspective? How do we decide that?
Okay. So coming to the infrastructure, so like it depends. Like if it can be taken to the cloud, so then take it, because in the long term, like you will get the benefits and do away with the infrastructure. But I've seen organizations who still want to live with the infrastructure because they have invested very recently. So what you can do is you can go for a hybrid model. You can have express route and those kind of setup done, and take the benefits of your investment that you have done, and gradually move it to the cloud. Because someday your infrastructure will grow old. Like normally, your infrastructure that you procure, they have a lifespan of 3 to 4 years. And for managing the cost, we have you need to build a dashboard. Maybe in the govern third step, you need to build a dashboard. TCO, total cost of ownership, you can actually figure that. So I think I am good.
You are good.
I'd say it's great.
Yeah, I'd say you're really good.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you Abhishek for that presentation. So, okay, so in my session, we will understand the basic overview of Microsoft Standard Logic App. Okay. So before that, this is about me. I'm a Microsoft Q&A community champion. I'm a community moderator on Microsoft Q&A platform as well. I'm a TechNet Wiki Ninja council member. I work with Kate Price, Ronan, and then I'm a TechNet Wiki Ninja author, and I'm a sub corner MVP. We lost the MVP. So
Important last.
yeah. Let's move to the next one. So today's agenda is what is Azure Logic App Standard, we'll understand. Then we'll know what is difference between single tenant, multi-tenant, and ISC. So ISC stands for Integration Service Environment. Then we will understand the feature of Azure Logic App Standards, and then what is stateful and stateless workflows, and then we'll see a live demo. So what is a standard logic app or Azure Logic App Standard? So before that, first we need to understand what is Azure Logic App. So if you have worked on the Azure Logic App, then you might know what is Azure Logic App. But if you are not familiar with the Azure Logic App, then let me tell you, Azure Logic App is a fully managed iPaaS platform by Microsoft. So iPaaS stands for Integration Platform as a Service, where we can create a workflow, we can integrate with the multiple systems. So again here, in Azure Logic App, there are two types of flavor: standard Logic App and consumption Logic App. So in consumption Logic App, you don't have to worry about the hosting or availability or management. It is a serverless, and you don't need to worry about the resources. Okay, so everything will be managed by Microsoft. You just have to create your workflow, and you can integrate between the systems. 27th July 2016, Microsoft Logic App was generally available by Microsoft. It was available for public to use that Microsoft Logic App. Then 29th May of 2019, ISC, that is Integration Service Environment, which was generally available. And then in 20th May 2021, the standard Logic App was available in a GA form. So this is journey of Logic App. And one more announcement day for yesterday. Microsoft is going to deprecate the ISC environment, like integration service environment. So going forward, after 1st November, you will not able to create the integration service environment. If any company or if any organization is using that, then they can use till September 2024. Yeah. So before that, they have to migrate everything to standard Logic App. So they have already shared the blog post about that, how you can migrate your standard ISC Logic App to standard Logic App. They have already mentioned everything there. Okay, so let's understand what is difference between single tenant, multi-tenant, and the ISC. So in single tenant, there are no dependency in integration account. So if you know about the integration account generally used to store the maps, schemas. In B2B scenario, whenever we are doing any integration between the systems, okay, so we create a schemas, we create a maps. So when we store that, we store in the integration account. Okay, so in single tenant, there are no dependency of integration account. You can directly import or export the maps in this single tenant. I'll show you the demo. Then it is a standard-based hosting plan with selected pricing tiers. So you don't have to like in consumption Logic App, whatever you will use, you have to pay for that. But in single tenant, it is based on the hosting plan. Which hosting plan you want to use? Based on that, you have to select the pricing tier. Then you will get the integrate support for the virtual network, VNet network, and you can also integrate with the private endpoint. Then development and testing can be done locally. Using the standard Logic App, you can using the VS Code, you can do the development and you can perform the testing as well. In multi-tenant, that is in other way we can call consumption Logic App. This one is easy to get started because we just have to select the consumption Logic App and we can provide the Logic App name and we can start it. And it is pay for what we use. Okay, so suppose if you use for 100 transactions, 100 flows, you have to pay only for that much of uses. It is fully managed, and so here the difference between in multi-tenant single Logic App, you can have only one workflow, but in single tenant you can have like 1 to n relation. Okay, so like you can get one single tenant and you can get a multiple workflows in the single tenant. Alright, and it is a consumption Logic App, pay as per distribution. Here in development is done locally, but testing is not supported in the local environment in the multi-tenant Logic App. Now coming to the ISC. So ISC is basically used for the enterprise scale. If you have a large number of integration, then you can go with the ISC, because ISC is comparison to standard Logic App or multi-tenant Logic App. ISC is much costly. Also in ISC you will get 20 plus ISC specific connectors that will connect to the different environments. You can have the predictable price, including the uses. Okay, and it is again, it is staying the same reason when you deploy your ISC environment. So ISC basically you can understand like a virtual network. When you get a virtual network in the V and in the virtual machine, you have to manage everything, right? But here in ISC, everything will be managed by Microsoft, but you will get a dedicated server where you can host your Logic App and everything. Then next, what are the features in standard logic app? So I said it is a single tenant. It can run anywhere. So it can have multiple workflows. That I said we can have multiple workflows in a single tenant. Then there is no integration account required. So basically, this integration account is very much costly. If you go along with consumption logic app and integration account, so integration account is very much costly. But in a standard logic app, you will not have to integrate. It's not required to do integration between integration account. Okay. Then in standard logic app, it will support a stateless and state full workflows. I'll show you the difference between stateful and stateless. Then it supports the local deployment and debugging. We can locally develop it and you can debug it. You will get the storage account and also data residing in the same region, and you can predict the cost. You can calculate the cost, how much cost it will be if I have to build anything in standard logic app. Next, move to see what is difference between stateless and stateful workflows. So, stateful workflows where it will store the run history, it will store the input and output. So, whenever we execute the flow, you can see the history, like it was success or fail. Even you can open the instances, you can view the data. Okay. We have a managed character trigger available and allowed in stateful. We still support the chunking, like if you want to process the large masses of data. Using the chunking, we can use that in a stateful. It supports the asynchronous operations and also it handles the large messages. But in a stateless, it does not support the run history or input by default. So by default, in the sense, if you want to enable it, you can do that, but by default, it will be disabled in a stateless workflow. Then managed character and triggers are not available as of today. There are no support of chunking, and if you have like this stateless workflow is maximum. It is based for maximum duration of under 5 minutes. If your transaction is completing under 5 minutes, then you can use and you can go with the stateless workflow. And also, it is based for handling the small number of messages, small size of messages. Okay, so let's move to the demo and I'll show you quickly. So for this session, I have already created. So this is my standard logic app. Okay, so this is my standard logic app that I have created. And in the standard logic app, if you can see, we have this section workflows, and inside the workflows we have connections, parameters, artifacts, schema, and maps. So if you create a standard consumption logic app, you will not see these options. You will not see the workflows option. You will not see the schema and map option. Okay. So if I go inside the workflows, so I have already created two types of workflows. One is stateful and another is stateless workflow. So if I open the stateful workflow, and in stateful workflow, you will see all the run history. If you can see, these are the run history that I have tested. But if I go and I'll show you the stateless workflow, even for stateless workflow, also I have tested, but you cannot see any run history here. You can see we don't have any run history. If you want to see the run history in stateless, what we can do by default, this debug mode will be disabled. Okay, so if you enable it, then we can view the run history about this one also. So I'll show you quickly. I'm just going to enable it. Okay, so it's enabled now. If I post the message, okay, so I created the flow here. Okay, so this will be the status request. This is my endpoint URL, and I am just sending one message. Okay, I'm just sending it to this logic app. Okay, so I received the response. Request has been processed successfully to the system. Now let's go here and refresh this. Alright, so now we can see. Now I can see the workflow information about this one. Okay, so let's open it. Let's understand what we are doing here. So it's a very simple logic app that we have created. We are getting a message using the HTTP connector. Okay, we are just decoding that message because we are receiving that message in base 64 encoded format. This is the message. this is the message that we are using. Okay, so I am decoding here that message. I am just defining the file name and uploading that file to Azure Cloud Storage, just archiving that request. And after that, I am checking the condition. If message is not empty, if message is empty, I am terminating here. If message is not empty, I am doing a flat file decoding. So here, basically, I am getting a flat file, and I want to process that flat file into XML format. Okay, so I am decoding here. I am doing this validation, and then I am transforming that XML into XML. And after that, I am uploading that file to Azure Blob Storage. And once it is uploaded, I am sending a success response back, like this is successfully uploaded. In case I have any failure, it will go to the catch block, and in catch block, it will again upload that file to the failed folder, and it will send a response like your message has been it's not processed in the system. Okay, and then we will terminate that process. So this is the entire flow. So if you can see, I have just pushed one message, so I'll show you on the blog. So first I'll see the message request here. So we should have one message. Okay, so yeah, so see this one 11:35. This one is the message that we have triggered, and the outbound message, it should be in the XML format. Okay, so we have this message in XML format. Just open it. And after transformation, we are okay. So this is the message that I'm sending to the destination system. Okay, this is the XML that I'm sending, and this was my input. So input is the base 64 encoded. If I decode it, I'll show you. It is a flat file message. If you can see, it's a comma separated flat file message. Okay, so I'm processing this message and I'm converting this message to in XML format. Okay, so this is the flow about my logic app. So here now I'll go back again, measure logic app. So I'll show you here. So here, if you can see, we have this schema and map section. In the schema section, we have two schemas. One is the flat file schema, and another is the XML schema. So flat file schema, the input message we are getting in the flat file. So that's why we have this flat file schema, and the output we are generating in XML format. So we have created this XML schema. Then we have a map between flat file and XML. So map file is XSLT, and we have uploaded this XSLT also. How we have created these maps? So using the Visual Studio, you can